Let me tell you about a night that changed my entire understanding of success. I was maybe 27, 28 years old, struggling, trying to figure this whole thing out. I had met this man, a millionaire, several times over, who had agreed to mentor me. One evening, I drove past his office around midnight, and I saw lights on. I thought maybe he'd forgotten to turn them off, so I went up to check. Midnight on a Tuesday, and this man who could have been anywhere, doing anything, was sitting at his desk with papers spread everywhere, working on a plan for his next business expansion. No employees around. No cameras, no audience, just him and the work. I stood there watching through the glass for a moment, and something clicked in my mind. This man didn't get successful by accident. He wasn't lucky. He was working while the whole world was sleeping. He was building in private, and that private work was the foundation of everything everyone saw in public. That night I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. Everything you want is on the other side of work that nobody will ever see. You know what the real secret of successful people is? It's not that they're smarter than you. It's not that they had better opportunities. It's not even that they worked harder, though most of them did. The real secret is this: they were willing to be anonymous. They were willing to be unknown. They were willing to work for years without recognition, without applause, without anyone knowing their name or caring about their dreams. They built in private. They planted seeds in soil nobody was watching. They practiced their craft in empty rooms. They failed 1,000 times where nobody could see them fail. And by the time the world noticed them, they were already excellent. They were already 10 years into their journey. They were already masters of their craft. The celebration came later. The recognition came later. But the work, the real work that mattered, that happened in complete privacy. Here's the truth about my story that most people don't know. Before I became the Jim Rohn you might know, before I ever stood on a stage, before anyone ever paid to hear me speak, I was broke and broken. I was 25 years old with nothing to show for my life, pennies in my pocket, behind on my promises, behind on my bills, behind on everything that mattered. And I remember standing in my tiny apartment one night, looking at myself in the mirror, and I had a choice to make. I could keep talking about what I was going to do someday, or I could start doing it right now, in private, where nobody would see me struggle. I could keep making announcements about my plans, or I could shut my mouth and open my books. I chose the books. I chose the private work. For the next 5 years, I became a student. I read everything I could find. I listened to every lecture I could afford. I took notes like my life depended on it, because it did. I practiced in front of mirrors. I recorded myself on cheap tape recorders and listened back, cringing at every mistake but learning from each one. And nobody knew. My family didn't know how hard I was working. My friends didn't know I was staying up till 2 in the morning studying philosophy and business and human behavior. I wasn't posting about it. I wasn't announcing it. I was just doing it. And let me tell you something, those 5 years of private work, those 5 years of building where nobody was watching, those were the years that made me everything I later became. Not the stages, not the applause, not the recognition, the private work, the invisible hours, the anonymous dedication. You see, there's something most people don't understand about success. They think it's about the big moments, the public victories, the celebrations everyone sees. But that's not where success is born. Success is born at 5 in the morning when you get up to work on your dream while your neighbors are still sleeping. Success is born at midnight when you're practicing your craft while everyone else is watching television. Success is born in the library, in the workshop, in the gym, in the laboratory, in all those private places where you're building something that doesn't exist yet. Michelangelo understood this. When he was sculpting David, he wouldn't let anyone into his workshop. For years, people begged to see what he was working on. Important people, powerful people, they all wanted to watch the master at work. And he refused them all. He said the work wasn't ready. He said he needed privacy to create. And when he finally unveiled David, the world was stunned. They saw perfection. They saw genius. But what they didn't see were the 1,000 mistakes he made in private, the chisels that slipped, the marble he wasted, the days he wanted to quit. All of that happened behind closed doors, and that's exactly why the final result was so magnificent. He built in private until he had something worthy of public celebration. Now, let me tell you why most people never get there. It's not because they can't do the work. It's because they leak their energy talking about the work. Every time you announce a goal, every time you tell someone what you're planning to do, your brain gets a little reward. It feels good to talk about your plans. It feels good to have people say, "That's great. Good luck with that." The problem is, your brain can't tell the difference between talking about doing something and actually doing it. When you announce your intention to write a book, your brain releases the same satisfaction chemicals it would release if you'd actually written the book. So you get the reward without putting in the work. You feel accomplished for having a plan, so you never execute the plan. I've watched this destroy more dreams than failure ever could. People announce they're going to lose weight, and they feel so good about the announcement that they never actually go to the gym. They declare they're starting a business, and the declaration gives them such satisfaction that they never actually start the business. The talking becomes a replacement for the doing. And 5 years later, they're still talking, still planning, still intending, but nothing has changed. Meanwhile, the person who kept quiet, who didn't announce anything, who just went to work in private, they're 50 pounds lighter, or they've built a thriving business, or they've mastered a new skill. The difference isn't talent. The difference is they understood that words drain power while work builds it. Let me get personal with you for a moment. After those 5 years of private study, after all that anonymous work, I started getting opportunities to speak. Small events at first, rooms with 20 people, 30 people, nobody famous, nothing glamorous. But I was ready because I'd built in private. I'd done the work where nobody was watching. And one speech led to another, which led to another. My reputation started growing. More people wanted to hear what I had to say. And here's what I learned about celebration. There's a right time for it, and that time is after the work, not before it. When you've actually accomplished something, when you've built something real through private dedication, then celebrating in public isn't arrogance. It's inspiration. It's showing others what's possible. It's giving people who are still in their private building phase a reason to keep going. Your success becomes their hope. Your achievement becomes their permission. When I finally started speaking to larger audiences, when my name started becoming known, I wasn't celebrating for me. I was celebrating for every person in that audience who was working in private on their own dreams, wondering if it would ever pay off. My public success was proof that private work matters. That was the whole point of the celebration. Think about a harvest. A farmer plants seeds in spring. Nobody celebrates the planting. Nobody throws a party because you put seeds in dirt. The planting happens in private, in obscurity, with faith that something will grow. Then the farmer tends those crops all summer, watering, weeding, protecting them from pests and weather. Still no celebration. Still no audience. Just work, day after day after day of private labor. But then comes autumn. Then comes harvest. And when the farmer brings in those crops, when the barn is full and the work has produced abundance, that's when the community celebrates. That's when everyone sees what the private work produced. That's when celebration makes sense. You're not celebrating the intention. You're not celebrating the plan. You're celebrating the result. You're celebrating the completion. And that celebration matters because it tells the whole community, look what dedication produces. Look what patient work creates. Your public celebration, when it's earned through private work, becomes a lesson for everyone watching. But here's where it gets really interesting. Here's the third phase that separates the good from the great, the successful from the legendary. After you've built in private, after you've celebrated in public, there comes a time when you start to dominate in silence. What does that mean? It means you reach a level where you don't need to announce anything anymore. You don't need to tell people you're successful. They already know. You don't need to declare that you're excellent. Your reputation does it for you. You don't need to compete in public forums or prove yourself in social media. Your results speak so loudly that your mouth doesn't need to say a word. I know people who control industries, who own companies you've heard of. who influence decisions that affect millions of lives, and you've never seen their faces in magazines. You've never heard them give interviews. They don't seek publicity. They don't need it. They dominate through consistency, through excellence, through decades of delivering value. And they do it quietly because real power doesn't announce itself. Real power just is. I met a woman once who owned 143 rental properties. 143. Do you know how much wealth that represents? Do you know how much passive income that generates? She was set for 10 lifetimes. And I met her at a regular community meeting, dressed simply, driving a normal car, living in a normal house. Nothing about her screamed success. And when I found out what she'd built, I asked her why she kept such a low profile. She said something I'll never forget. She said, "Jim, I spent 20 years building this empire, one property at a time. 20 years of private work, private learning, private growing. I don't need anyone to know what I've built. The properties know. The tenants know. My bank account knows. That's enough. I dominate my market, but I don't need to announce it. The results announce themselves to the people who matter." That's wisdom right there. That's understanding the difference between noise and substance. Noise seeks attention. Substance creates results. And once you've got real results, real substance, real excellence, you discover that silence is more powerful than any announcement could ever be. Let me tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Most of what you see on social media, most of the loud declarations and constant updates and public promises, that's not success. That's insecurity masked as ambition. Real builders are too busy building to constantly update everyone about it. Real achievers are too focused on achieving to worry about who's watching. The person posting every day about their goals is usually the person not actually working on their goals. They're working on their image. They're managing perceptions. They're seeking validation. Meanwhile, the person you never hear from, the one who's quiet on social media, who doesn't broadcast their every move, that person is often crushing it. They're in the gym at 6 in the morning. They're in the library studying. They're in the workshop creating. They're in meetings, closing deals. They're actually doing the thing while everyone else is talking about doing the thing. And one day you wake up and that quiet person has lapped everyone. They've built an empire while the loud people were still arguing about the blueprints. So let me ask you some hard questions right now. What are you building in private? What work are you doing where nobody's watching? What skills are you developing that nobody knows about? Are you actually putting in the hours, or are you just talking about putting in the hours? Because here's the reality. 5 years from now, you'll either have results to show for this time, or you'll have excuses. You'll either have built something substantial in private, or you'll still be talking about what you're going to build someday. The market doesn't care about your intentions. Life doesn't reward your plans. You get paid for results. You get celebrated for completion. You get to dominate when you've put in years of work that earned you that dominance. Not before, after. The work comes first, always. The private dedication comes first. The anonymous hours come first. The building nobody sees comes first. Everything else flows from that. Let me give you something practical to start today. Right now, not tomorrow, today. First, stop announcing your goals. Just stop. Stop posting about what you're going to do. Stop telling everyone your plans. Keep your mouth closed and your head down. Second, pick one thing, just one, that you're going to build in private. Maybe it's a skill you want to develop. Maybe it's a business you want to start. Maybe it's a body you want to transform. Whatever it is, commit to working on it every single day for the next 90 days without telling anyone. Third, when you want to post about it, when you want to talk about it, when you want to seek validation for your progress, channel that energy back into the work instead. Every time you feel the urge to announce, do another hour of building. 4, after 90 days, assess your progress. Look at what you've actually built in private. If it's substantial, if it's real, if it creates value, then you can share it. Not to brag, to inspire, to give someone else permission to try. And 5, once you've built something significant, once you've achieved a level of excellence that's undeniable, practice dominating in silence. Let your results speak. Let your reputation precede you. Let others discover your excellence instead of announcing it yourself. You want to know what you'll regret when you're 80 years old? You won't regret the post you didn't make. You won't regret the announcements you didn't give. You won't regret staying quiet while you built. You'll regret the work you didn't do. You'll regret the building you didn't finish because you were too busy talking about building. You'll regret the private hours you traded for public validation. You'll regret choosing the appearance of success over the substance of success. I've talked to enough elderly people to know this is true. The ones with regrets are the ones who spent their lives performing instead of producing. The ones with satisfaction are the ones who shut up and built something real. The ones with peace are the ones who know they gave their dreams everything they had, in private, where it counted, where it mattered, where the real work happens. So here's what I want you to understand today. You're not here to be famous. You're here to be excellent. You're not here to be recognized. You're here to create value. You're not here to talk about success. You're here to achieve it. And achievement happens in private. It happens when you're alone with your thoughts and your work. It happens when nobody's watching and you do it anyway. It happens when nobody's applauding and you keep going anyway. It happens when nobody believes in you and you believe in yourself anyway. That's where success lives. That's where champions are made. That's where ordinary people transform into extraordinary achievers. In the privacy of their commitment, in the silence of their dedication, in the anonymity of their work. Build in private like your legacy depends on it, because it does. Every private hour is an investment in a public future. Every anonymous sacrifice is a seed that will produce a visible harvest. Every moment you spend working instead of talking is a moment that compounds into something magnificent. Build in private until you've got something so undeniable, so substantial, so excellent that it demands to be seen. Then celebrate in public, not for ego, but for inspiration. Not to elevate yourself, but to lift others. Not to say, look at me, but to say, look what's possible. Let your celebration be permission for someone else to dream. Let your success be proof that dedication pays off. Let your public moments serve a purpose beyond yourself. And then, when you've built enough, when you've achieved enough, when you've created enough value over enough years, step into the quiet power of silent dominance. Stop proving. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. Just be excellent. Just create value. Just serve at the highest level. Let the market discover your excellence. Let your reputation build itself through decades of consistent delivery. Let your dominance be obvious to everyone who matters without you ever having to declare it. That's real power. That's sustainable success. That's the life of someone who understood the 3 phases and lived them in the right order. The world is full of talkers. The world is drowning in announcements. Everyone's got a plan. Everyone's got a goal. Everyone's going to do something big someday. But you know what the world needs? The world needs builders. The world needs people who will shut their mouths and open their workshops. The world needs people who value private work over public validation. The world needs people who are willing to be anonymous for years so they can be excellent forever. Be that person. Be the one who builds in private while everyone else is talking in public. Be the one who celebrates with purpose instead of ego. Be the one who dominates in silence instead of announcing their every achievement. Your moment is coming. Your harvest is coming. Your time to celebrate is coming. But right now, in this moment, you've got work to do. Private work, important work. Work that nobody will see, but everybody will eventually benefit from. So get off social media. Close your mouth. Open your books. Turn off your phone. Lock your door. And build something that matters. Build something that lasts. Build something that makes the world better. Do it in private. Do it in silence. Do it with dedication that doesn't need an audience. And when the time comes, when you've actually built something worthy of celebration, then celebrate. Celebrate for all the right reasons. and then get back to building, quieter than ever, more powerful than ever, dominating your field through excellence that needs no announcement. That's the path. That's the way. That's how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. Not through talking, through building. Not through announcing, through achieving. Not through seeking attention, through creating value. Build in private, celebrate in public, dominate in silence. That's your formula. That's your future. Now go make it happen. The world is waiting for what you're going to build. They just don't know it yet, but they will. When you're ready, when the work is done, when the building is complete. Until then, keep quiet and keep building. Everything you want is on the other side of that private work. Now go do it.